Toyota, they really want to sell sedans here in the States. So they thought, how can we do it? Americans won't buy any sedans, they only buy crossover and SUVs. So we have some big news from Toyota, and I have no idea what Toyota is doing with the Crown that is finally coming to the US. It's been on sale in Japan since the 1950s, and it's actually replacing the Toyota Avalon here in the US. We're gonna talk about this design, this unique styling of this car. But before we do that, let's go over the basic spec and tech of the new Crown. It comes with all-wheel drive as standard and 2 hybrid powertrain options and 3 trim levels. The base has a 236 horsepower engine, and the top trim, Platinum, comes with a 2.4-liter inline-4 turbo and 2 electric motors for a total output of 340 horsepower. It will be priced around $40,000 to about $50,000. Now, this design, guys, I honestly don't know what it is classified as. Is it a crossover? Is it an SUV? Is it a sedan? Is it a SUVan? Toyota themselves, they call it a premium sedan that has a higher ride height design, which is pretty interesting. And it comes with either 19 alloy wheels. Wheels are important, as you know, we need to bring them up here, 19 inches, or Platinum comes with 21-inch 10-spoke wheels, which looks pretty good. We're gonna have a look at that in a second. I think Toyota sat in their boardroom. They talked about how can we bring sedans to the US. That was the main goal of that meeting, and I think it went down something like this. They considered that Ford and Cadillac have recently decided to ditch their sedans. Ford doesn't sell sedans here in the US anymore. Cadillac is moving away from that as well. But Toyota, they really want to sell sedans here in the States. So they thought, how can we do it? Americans won't buy any sedans, they only buy crossover and SUVs. So they came up with this sneaky little plan to take their Crown sedan, lift it up by 4 inches, and then add some plastic cladding around the wheels. That will make the Americans go absolutely nuts for this, because they think, the Americans, when they buy this, they think they're gonna go tell everybody that, hey, we bought a new SUV, we bought a new crossover, and then the Toyota executive is gonna sit in the background and laugh at them and say, hey, they actually bought a sedan. And that's their sneaky plan, to bring sedans in more to the US. And I think it's a good idea, because I really want to see more sedans here. We have too many boring, generic looking crossovers here. So I think whatever sneaky plan they came up with, hopefully, I really hope they will succeed in selling a lot of these interesting designs of the Crown, Toyota Crown. So here we have the sketches. I want to show you the initial sketches and then go all the way to the production sketches, and then show you the car from the front, side, and rear, the interior, and also show you a couple of concepts that are pretty interesting to look at as well. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but more on that later. Here we have the sketches for the Crown. We can see that these are very early sketches. These are like student design sketches with a lot of cool designs and cool shapes, but nothing that is really feasible to go into production. Specifically shapes like this, for example, you have a spaceship or something like that with no wheels, but this is just to experiment with different volumes. Usually when you start sketching cars, you don't put too much focus on the wheels, you put focus on the volumes and the shapes and how they connect with each other proportionally, and then you can start messing about with the wheel position. Then we're moving down to a little bit more defined sketches down here. We have a Photoshop sketch on the left. We also have another Photoshop sketch. These look a little different from each other, and they're trying to figure out how to work with the graphics. Do you want a cut line right here? Do you want a cut line that cuts into the body and almost gives it this early shape that we have right here, but in a more production friendly manner that we have in the sketch? Or what are we looking for in this new Crown design? And this is definitely, as a designer, the most fun part that you have in the entire design process. Just brain dumping all the sketches, all the ideas you have, just put them down on paper, show it to the executives, and then let them decide which direction to go in. Now we're going further down and we're starting to get more defined sketches. As you can see, this looks like almost like a shooting brake or a hatchback. Obviously, proportionally not feasible for production here either. It's way too low, wheels are way too big, but that's what you want in a sketch. When you're sketching cars in this phase, you want to sell your idea, and that means you need to exaggerate the proportions and the features of your design. Then we come down to the production version sketches, or close to them at least, and I think it looks good. This doesn't look like a lifted 4 inches sedan. This looks like a really clean looking design. This surfacing right here reminds me a little bit of Mazda with the flowing surfacing sculptures on the side. I love the Mazda 3. I think that's one of the best looking small hatchbacks still today. It's a beautiful design. This reminds me a little bit of that. We have some treatment in the rear that you have the two-tone. That is a very unique and interesting treatment of the production version that actually went into production. Then we have a quick sketch here of the interior from a top view. So let's have a look at the actual car and what happened here. So this is the premium or the platinum, the top trim level, which you can get with this two-tone hood. So you can have the hood in black and you can have the rear trunk in black. From the front end, I think this two-tone looks really cool. It looks pretty decent. Overall, what I think of this design, I mean, I don't think it's a necessarily beautiful design. I don't understand it, but at the same time, from a strategic point, I do understand this design. And if you want to bring a brand new sedan to the US, this is pretty much what you need to do in order to sell it, because people think that this is now an off-road vehicle because you have plastic cladding around the wheel arches and you have a 4-inch higher ride height, which I guess is going to help you in the 0.2% of the times when you actually need a higher ground clearance than a regular sedan. Then we have the side view right here. You can see the wheels. The wheels looks pretty decent on this car. I do like this design. These are the 21-inch wheels for the platinum trim level. Looks decent. We have black cladding going all the way up to this point, and then in addition you have more cladding going on right here, more black features. This is equipped without the black hood and the black trunk. I think that definitely looks a lot better than having the two-tone on the crown. And then we have some organic shoulder lines going on, but we still have a sharp shoulder going from the rear corner of the taillight into the body. And then I think if we were to stretch this out, it would probably meet the corner of the headlight there. I'm pretty sure if we were to stretch it out. But as you can see, it kind of fades in this area and creates this Mazda looking front door, which I'm not opposed to. It looks pretty cool. Then we have the rear view. This is the most interesting view of this car in my opinion. We have a very simple graphic that is housed by extremely complex surfacing. So we have a super clean one light bar stretches from one corner to the other side, and that's about it. We have the logo in the center cutting up the LED bar in the middle, and then we have these wings sticking up on the fender. We have some black graphics. This is obviously equipped with the two-tone package. I don't know what I think about this. I want to hear your opinion. Do you like this dual, like two-tone finish on the crown? And do you like that it sits 4 inches higher than a regular sedan? I mean, to me, it just doesn't make sense to create a car like this. But then again, people buy crossovers because they think they're off-road vehicles, and that also doesn't make sense to me. So two negatives makes a positive, I guess, and that all of a sudden this makes sense selling this car in the US by that logic. Let's move on to the interior. I kind of like this interior, but when I first saw it, it felt, I don't know why, but it kind of felt a little dated already. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's the curvatures that goes in here. Maybe it's this center console, or maybe it's this area. Maybe it's all of them combined. Not sure exactly. I can't put my finger on what it is that makes it look dated, but it just feels dated. That's all I can say about the interior. We do have a 12.3-inch screen as an infotainment screen. We do have the usual angles of the end point of the screen that we have in pretty much every single Toyota. It never goes parallel to the screen. And then we have, look at this. This is an interesting implementation of the dashboard, of the gauge cluster, because the gauge cluster sits in a nice little cozy house here, as you can see, which is very well, all is good. But it also is connected with the housing for the infotainment system. I don't think I've seen that treatment before. There's no separation between the infotainment and the gauge cluster. They sit in the same housing, but they are treated very differently. The infotainment is out here in the wild, while the gauge cluster has this cozy house around it. The steering wheel, I think this has also a lot to do with it with looking dated. I think these buttons, everything feels like it's from 10 years ago. Even the styling of the steering wheel in the middle, it feels old school. It's nothing wrong with that, but I think they could have worked a little bit on the interior more to make it feel more up to date. So let's have a look at the concepts here and what's going on. And this is interesting because Toyota says, we don't know if these are going into production, but I assume they are, because if we look at all these like this, right next to each other, one of these, only one of these, is actually a production car, and that is the Crown out here, as you can see, with the beautiful rose gold and the black hood right there. Then we have a small SUV, a crossover, which I think we can just skip already. Then we have a nice, solid looking normal sedan. So I wish that this was actually coming to the US instead of this, but you know, this is not lifted, it doesn't have any black cladding on it, so it's not going to be able to sell that here in the US. Then we have a normal looking sedan SUV, which I think looks decent. And looking at the details of these cars, for example, the door handles, the side mirrors, the wheels, how they sit in the car, the front end graphics, all of these look like they are like 6 months out from being production ready. But I'm not sure if all of them are coming to the US. Probably not the sedan, since we already get the Suvan coming to the US. So those are my thoughts on the Toyota Crown. I think they're doing I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see if this is actually going to sell here. If Toyota managed to fool the Americans into thinking that this is actually a sporty crossover. And no, it's not a sedan. Don't ever think it's a sedan. Just market it as a crossover, and that way we're going to sneak in some new sedans into the US market. I hope they succeed. Let me know what you think about this car in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.